the larger question of the hijab, there's a pro-hijab movement around the world. But we are also witnessing, especially in Europe, that multiculturalism is being pushed against. It is being done in country after country, where not only in the issue of the hijab or the burqa itself, but people are coming to the realization that multiculturalism, which is the backbone of saying that people should be able to flaunt their religious identity or any other identity anywhere they want, is actually creating deeper fissures. And that's the larger question here. Because if you allow the hijab in a classroom, what will it lead to?
So, Shivani, you're right. One is the specific question of this particular case. These were the same kids who did not have a problem going without a hijab until a couple of days back. And suddenly they've decided and they've raked up this entire controversy. Now, you're absolutely right that you go into there is a certain, uniform standard which has been imposed. You might agree with it or you might disagree with it.
Right.
For example, if I don't agree with what school my kids go to or what teaching they have done or the uniform which they are prescribed, I should change the school and I should go where, it serves my ideological or whatever other predilections I have. Now, so one is that specific question that there's a uniform prescribed. You can't violate that particular principle, because if you start doing it, then there's a pushback which is very clearly coming from the other side. And I don't endorse either of that.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that every action will have some kind of a reaction, and it's best to avoid that. Yes, you are right. You are going into the class, you take off your hijab, you conform to the uniform, you come out, you want to wear a hijab, you want to wear a burqa, you want to wear whatever. It's your free choice. You go ahead, do it. One. I might not like it, and I would agree with Ms. Zaidi on that. All that misogyny aside. The bigger question, however, and I'll just come to the European part and multiculturalism in a bit, but the bigger question is that the arguments being made in the court is that this is mandatory under a religion. This is an article of faith of the religion. I agree with what Ms. Zaidi has said, but the fact of the matter remains that if you now accept that this is a mandatory requirement under the religion, and I can't see the television screen right now, but I would imagine that Ms. Zaidi, who is probably a devout Muslim, would henceforth be declared an apostate, because she's probably not clad in a hijab or a burqa coming on your show, because this is supposed to be mandatory. That means that any Muslim girl loses the agency, loses the choice, loses everything which has been gained over the years and which has already been there
in India
as part of the society in India. So look, India is a unique country. Nobody bats an eyelid, nobody gives a second look if a woman is wearing a shuttlecock burqa, wearing a hijab, wearing whatever, right? So that is not a problem. For people to make this out to be a question of education versus hijab, I think that's a complete misrepresentation of this particular case. Nobody has stopped these girls from getting educated in the college. There is a certain prescription which is there. They are supposed to follow it. If they don't like it, they should change the college. Number one. Number two, if you take this same logic forward tomorrow, and this was done in the Indian Air Force a couple of years back, I tweeted about an old story which came, I think it was 2016, when people in the Air Force said that we should be allowed to wear a beard because that's an article of faith for us. And the Supreme Court very clearly ruled that this is not an article of faith. If you want to do this, then you have to leave the Air Force, right? The only exception which was made was for Sikhism, because that is actually an article of faith out there.
Yeah,
it is not in the other cases. And finally, on the multiculturalism thing, I think multiculturalism has backfired in ways the Europeans never imagined it would. I think multiculturalism has failed completely. Europe was a far, far, far more relaxed and liberal society in which people could do whatever they wanted to do until about 10, 15 years back. But I think the pushback is now coming from the indigenous people of Europe against the migrants because of precisely this attitude that we will do things which violate whatever, the society where we have come to settle, or where we might be now second generation, third generation. We will bring back what we have left behind in Morocco, Algeria, or whichever place they've come from, we are now going to bring it back and we are going to shove it down your throat.
And
We
you
are
know,
not
all
going
of
to
this is
live by the
also done,
norms of your
Sushant.
society. We will live by the
All
norms
of
our
these
society.
countries are
And if you
secular
are
in
so fond of
principle.
your society,
India
then
is
go back.
also designated a secular republic, and all of this fascinatingly is done in the name of secularism. You know what it has done is made people, unfortunately, I'm saying, wary of this
Shivani,
kind of secularism.
Shivani, frankly speaking, it is the secularists who have given this wonderful concept of secularism and made it into a four-letter word. Frankly speaking, the kind of distortions and contortions and convolutions which have been brought into the concept of secularism,
Okay.
making it, and it's becomes, and I think that is a great misfortune of this country, that as noble a concept of secularism has been distorted to a point where a
Unfortunately,
large
I am
number
a
of
little
people
short
feel
on time,
repelled by
so
it.
I have to give KS Naveen a minute also. Mr. Naveen, can I ask you, as a BJP representative, what is your fundamental argument here against the hijab in a classroom? Is it law and order? Is it other people's sentiments? Or is it that you want to maintain uniformity? There is some confusion with what the BJP is also saying.
Firstly, we want to, go by the law, what has been set already. The law says, Government of Karnataka law says that uniform is mandatory in the schools. So the uniform, the law that was brought, it was brought in 2015 and 16 by Government of Karnataka, which regulated the uniform for 11th and 12th students as well. That was basically to bring equality among all students, irrespective of caste, creed, and culture and religion, status, financial status, economic status. Everything has to be put in the same perspective, and the uniform was brought in. Now, I will let me go back to the chronological order of how this whole episode has propped up. BJP has no agenda here. BJP is not confused. BJP has got nothing to do with whatever this is very much a created controversy, which has come out of blue. Maybe, with the way things are going, probably this is also part of the toolkit agenda, larger toolkit agenda of the party, which did other protests as well earlier. See, till December of 2021, all the colleges and schools were shut because of COVID, and colleges started in December 2021. Everything was going as usual. Students were very happy to come back to school, very happy to go back to colleges, because they were not going to colleges for more than 1.5, almost close to 2 years.
Okay.
Now suddenly this one girl appears from nowhere and she says, I have to come with hijab and also sit in the classroom with a hijab. The principal tries to explain it to her, because we can't give differentiation, because already a set rule is there. It is not a new rule that came in during the COVID or whatever it was. It's there from 2015.
Okay.
Then next day she comes back with another 5 kids, and all of them come with hijab, and that's they sit as though it is their right to sit in the classroom with a hijab. And believe me, the principal did nothing wrong. He explained them that this is the law, this is the rule, this is what the education department has set in order for all the schools and colleges across the state.
Okay,
And
fair
they're
enough.
not made for only particular school.
No,
Or he
Mr.
did not have
Naveen,
any
fair
malified
enough. We
intentions to hurt
we have run the CDC's point of view. They have even released pictures to show that till last year, 2021, everyone was without headscarves. So yes,
Exactly.
this has
That's what
come
I'm
up
saying.
suddenly. The girls have also accepted to some media that they only started doing this in December. Why is the big question. But even if you have that faith, and even if you want to do it, is the classroom the place to do it, or should you choose an institution where you can do this? But I want to ask you one more time, Mr. Naveen. Why is the government making this about law and order? If you can't handle law and order, that doesn't mean the hijab is the problem.
Madam,
na?
1 second. The government is not making it as law and order issue. You please go back to the issues that has happened. See, the whole thing started to become a big issue when these students resisted and protested in the school. And they made sure that they want to take this as a fundamental right
Okay.
of them to come and express it
Well,
as their
for
wish
now, there
to
is
the
a
school.
status quo. We hope that everybody maintains peace and the government will have the onus to do so too. But there are larger questions that have erupted because of this debate, and without struggle, we must look at those issues.